Chapter 8. Du Sulang was only a string of data compiled by the Lord God. He wasn't like himself, an immortal soul. How could he possibly follow him? Smoking was very normal, and their similar habits were also very normal. Zhou Yunsheng convinced himself like this, but the bitterness in his heart was unspeakable. But it wasn't long before he didn't have the time to tangle with the other things. Fu Xuan called him and repeatedly urged him to quickly hand over his awards ceremony oil painting. His tone carried too much eagerness to completely conceal. Fu Xuan was considered to be the big shot of the oil painting department. His background was very strong. His father was the president of Sea Countries Painting and Calligraphy Association, and his mother was an international renowned oil painter, an expert in landscape painting. Her masterpiece, Wheat Wave, sold for the sky-high price of 7.5 million in the Jiadeli auction house. From childhood, Fu Xuan inherited his parents' fine genes. At the age of 6, he held his own personal art exhibition. In terms of painting, he was more gifted than anyone else. But examples of a pitiful Xiangyong wasn't uncommon. Unfortunately, Fu Xuan was included among the very typical types. As a result of premature success, he grew conceited. Coupled with his flock of followers, he gradually lost his ambition. Not only did he not industriously practice his painting skills, he became addicted to eating, drinking, and merriment. Painting skills needed to be polished. After ignoring the brush for long periods, inspiration and skill would dry up along with the passage of time. When Fu Xuan found himself standing in front of a canvas, no longer able to even draw a straight line, he finally panicked. But his response wasn't to force himself to pick up the brush, but to hire proxies. Whenever the instructor arranged homework or requested artwork, he would let others do it in his place. The oil painting department didn't lack for talented but impoverished students. Fu Xuan would find the most close-lipped students. One paid, one worked hard, convenient for both sides. Unexpectedly, he smoothly drifted along until senior year, and even became one of the best students in the teacher's eyes. But this international oil painting awards ceremony was only held once every 5 years. It was one of the most important competitions in the art world. Fu Xuan's proxies also had access to one entry. They wanted to take this opportunity to become famous in one go, so they naturally rejected him. Fu Xuan had no way out, but after thinking hard, Wei Xiyan popped into his head. Wei Xiyan's character was withdrawn, actions low-key, and he rarely interacted with his classmates. Fu Xuan naturally didn't know his family background, merely regarding him as a friendless orphan, so he plagiarized his painting in its entirety. That painting was the result of Wei Xiyan venting about his abandonment by the Ning family. He'd poured out all of his unwillingness, pain, longing, and sadness, breaking away from his usual smooth style, perfectly blending the beauty of classicalism and the unrestrained nature of abstraction together. It was very stunning. With this masterpiece, Wei Xiyan had the opportunity to become one of the most outstanding oil painters, but unexpectedly, Fu Xuan stole his achievements and even took him to court for copyright infringement. Wei Xiyan, who was driven out of the Ning family, naturally couldn't fight back. He had no choice but to settle out of court with Fu Xuan and promised to forever quit the oil painting industry. Wei Xiyan, who could no longer pick up his beloved paintbrush, obviously suffered great pain and lost his will to live. Now, Zhou Yunsheng was a day student. He only painted in the Ning residence art studio, not with his fellow students, making it difficult for Xuan to plagiarize. Seeing that the time limit for work submission was getting closer, he was finally uneasy. calling constantly, even lying to Zhou Yunsheng, saying that the instructor put him in charge of collecting the junior students' submissions. Zhou Yunsheng promised to hand it in, then hung up, his eyes darkening slightly. He carefully scrutinized the work on the aisle, modified a few places where he wasn't satisfied, and took it to Ning Xinyan's study after it dried. It was the weekend, so Ning Xinyan was working from home. He earnestly examined the thick file, glancing at the monitor every 10 minutes or so. Seeing that the boy was standing at the artboard and painting as usual, his heart felt extremely steady. The youth wouldn't go anywhere. He would always stand in place, waiting for him. The thought came suddenly, but it made him feel even more delighted. When he returned from his thoughts, the studio was already empty, and a familiar anxious feeling bubbled up in his heart. If such a thing happened while he was at the company, he would have immediately called to make Zhao Yun find him. But today was his day off. He decided to do it himself. Just as he put down the file, the door was knocked. Ning Xinyan impatiently asked, "Who?" "It's me." The youth's voice was crisp and sweet. Ning Xinyan instantly stiffened. After he snapped out of it, he immediately shut off the monitor above the computer, fixed the messy folders, and quickly walked towards the door. He stopped before reaching the door to fix his hair in the glass door of the bookcase. After verifying that he was very handsome, he smiled and opened the door. "Xian, come in." He naturally grabbed the youth's snow-white wrist and pulled him to the double sofa. He thought about pouring him a cup of coffee, but somehow felt that this drink wasn't right, so he ran downstairs to the kitchen to pour a glass of milk. After heating it up, he carefully carried it back up. Zhou Yunsheng felt extremely comfortable being waited upon by him, but he put on a very flattered expression, red cheeks accompanied by a pair of clear and moist peach blossom eyes. Fanboy Ning Xinyan almost lost control. Pressing down the agitation in his heart, Ning Xinyan sat next to the youth and softly asked, "Xian, do you have something to tell me?" If it was inconsequential, the youth would never take the initiative to get close to him. "Yes." Zhu Yunsheng glanced at him timidly, saying quiet with pursed rosy thin lips, "I want to participate in the Oil Painting Awards ceremony." "Oil Painting Awards ceremony? I know about that. Did you not get an entry? I'll immediately call to get you one, directly into the finals." This was a great opportunity to display his earnesty. How could Ning Xinyan pass it up? Before he finished talking, his hand was already dialing a string of numbers about to press call. Ning Group was the largest sponsor of this grand art event. Getting a spot in the finals was very easy. "No, not that." Zhou Yunsheng quickly grabbed his arm, his little face flushing anxiously. "I already have an entry." Ning Xinyan seized the opportunity to pull him into his arms. Restraining his excitement while stroking his soft hair, he asked, "Then why did you find me?" "Damn pervert, your sexual harassment skills simply can't be improved any further." Zhou Yunsheng secretly clenched his teeth, lowering his head as he vaguely said, "Can I send this picture in for review?" At this, Ning Xinyan finally noticed the 22 by 14 frame at his feet. He lifted the protective cover and Ning Wangshu's small round face appeared, looking extra chubby. The small child was squatting on the ground, wearing a very large white shirt, sleeves rolled up high. He was raising his two fat little hands to let the painter see his paint-stained palms. At his feet was a canvas stamped with little handprints. In his eyes, it was obviously a masterpiece, so he was smiling brilliantly. Even the sunshine spotting the background wasn't comparable. The painter's wholehearted love and tenderness was engraved in each brush stroke. The warm hue almost occupied the entire canvas. Hope, joy, tranquility, closely packed vitality, and happiness assaulted the senses when the canvas was uncovered. Ning Xinyan stared in awe. He almost forgot the last time he saw his son's smiling face. Can I bring this picture to the review? Zhou Yunsheng gently touched his arm. At this, Ning Xinyan snapped out of it, blinking away his acrid eyes. Of course you can. He was silent for a moment, then added, Someday, can you draw a portrait of me too? He never admitted that he was jealous of his son. Sure, Zhou Yunsheng nodded, carefully placing the protective cover back on the frame. When Fu Xuan saw Zhou Yunsheng walk over to hand in the painting, it looked like he was seeing his savior. After he lifted the canvas cover, he scrutinized it for a long time. Learning that the child in the painting was only imaginary, he finally let out a relieved breath. He knew that the painting would stand out. It was too smart, full of charm and emotion, painstakingly painted out of love. His eyes couldn't hide his greed. Seeing this, Zhou Yunsheng knew that he had already jumped into the snare. When he returned home, Ning Wangshu was taking a nap. Zhou Yunsheng tucked him in, kissed his rosy little cheeks, and whispered, I'm sorry for taking advantage of you, but I'll stay with you and protect you for a lifetime, until you're old. After he quietly returned to his room, Ning Xinyan called to interrogate him about his whereabouts for the day, including who he met, what he talked about, what he did, and so on. His increasingly intense desire for control and possessiveness made Zhou Yunsheng not know whether to laugh or cry. Xian, are you in there? Xiao Xingfang yelled outside the door. Zhou Yunsheng hung up and quickly changed into home clothes. Then he pulled open the door and quietly looked at her. Xiao Xingfang had on light makeup, highlighting her pair of large and bright almond eyes. Although it was already autumn, she was wearing a pure white slip dress. Her deliberately lowered neckline couldn't cover up her deep cleavage, and her pair of slender white legs were slightly gathered together in a sexy pose, making her womanly figure even more enchanting. Are you preparing to seduce me? Pull me into the marsh of adultery? A thin light flashed across Zhou Yunsheng's eyes. Xiao Xingfang saw that the boy was obviously trying to avoid her gaze, and her heart was quite proud. She was very knowledgeable about men's weaknesses, and her methods were shrewd and efficient. Even a master womanizer like Ning Xinyan could be wrangled, not to mention Wei Xian, this innocent youth. Orphaned and closed-off children like Wei Xian were most thirsty for maternal warmth. As long as she gave him a smile and said a few endearing words, he would submissively allow her to make unlimited demands. Wei Xian's parents left him a huge inheritance. Although it couldn't be compared with Ning Group, it was enough for an ordinary person to eat and drink endlessly, enjoying a few lifetimes. Xiao Xingfang pondered for a long time, then finally decided to turn Wei Xian into a love slave for her own use. Not only men also never forget their first love. Xiao Xingfang was planning to become Wei Xian's first. Sister-in-law, do you need something? Zhou Yunsheng was forced to retreat into a corner by Xiao Xingfang. The top and left of the bookcases each had a surveillance camera. The scene would be very clear and also a close-up view. Xiao Xingfang was totally unaware. Her hands were propped on the wall on both sides of the boy's cheek. Her full chest was rubbing lightly against him, her voice languid and flirtatious. I feel uncomfortable, so I wanted to chat with you a bit. Your brother's away from home most of the time. I'm very lonely. Zhou Yunsheng firmly held his breath, reddening his cheeks. Then he shrunk his neck and ducked under Xiao Xingfang's armpit. What are you afraid of? Afraid I'll eat you? Xiao Xingfang was amused. She grabbed him back and pinched his jaw, kissing him. This kiss was very short, because 2 seconds later the teenager violently struggled and pushed her away. He burst into tears and ran straight into the bathroom. Facing the toilet bowl, he started vomiting endlessly. Even bile was soon vomited out. Damn it, this was why he would never like women. The bathroom ceiling was equipped with a camera, quietly shooting the scene. Xiao Xingfang's complexion fluctuated. Even if she even if she was beaten to death, she would have never anticipated this reaction. Shouldn't normal people push her to the ground to do whatever they wanted? She was embarrassed, livid, but mostly panicked. She retreated to the door and fiercely threatened, Wei Xian, if you dare tell Xinyan what happened today, I tell him you intended to rape me. I'm his wife. You're just a bastard of unknown origin. Who do you think he'll choose to believe? The teenager stiffened, then lay on a tall ball, shivering. He seemed to be terrified and weeping. A long time after Xiao Xingfang left, he slowly looked up, revealing an extremely pale face and very red eyes.